Now let's learn how to divide decimals by powers of 10. So let's go ahead and jump into the first one. We have 225 divided by 10 to the 0 power. Remember, 10 to the 0 power, if you take off that 0, is just 1. So 225 divided by 1 is just 225. That first one is usually pretty easy. Remember, the important part of this is noticing a pattern. So let's keep going and see if we can find that pattern. 225 divided by 10 to the first. Remember, 10 to the first is the same as saying 100. I lied. It's the same as saying 10. So 10 to the first is the same as saying 10. So we know we need to divide 225 divided by 10. So in order to do that, remember, we can always put a decimal point at the end of the number because 225 decimal and 225 is the same number. So we're going to move our decimal point 1 to the left. Remember, we are doing this because we want to make it smaller. If I'm dividing something into 10 parts, I want to make it smaller. So we're going to make it smaller by 1 decimal place, swooping that decimal in 1 to the left because left is smaller. My answer is going to be 22 and 5/10. Let's go ahead and look at the next one. 225 divided by 10 to the second. Remember, 10 to the second is the same as saying 100 because there's 2 zeros. And we're going to do the exact same thing. We've got 225. We're going to divide by 10. So we're going to divide by 100. So we're making it 100 times smaller. Your decimal point at the end, we're going to swoop in 1, 2. Our answer is going to be 2 and 25 hundredths. Let's go ahead and do the last one. 225 divided by 10 to the third, which equals 1,000. We're going to put our decimal point at the end. We're going to swoop in 1, 2, 3 times. 0 and 225 thousandths. I hope you can see that pattern here. We should be able to see decimal moves up one place, moves up one place, moves up one place. That means our number, if we notice, we're going from 225 to 22 and 5/10 to 2 and 25/10 to 225 thousandths. As you can see, we're getting 10 times smaller every time. Let's go ahead and look at that next one. We've got 605 divided by 10 to the 0. Remember, 10 to the 0 is the same as just saying 1. So we've got 605. 605 divided by 10 to the first. We're going to move that decimal point over one place. That gives us 60 and 5/10. 605 divided by 10 to the second. It's the same as saying 100. We're going to say 1, 2 with that decimal point because we're dividing by 100. We're getting 100 times smaller. Moving that decimal point 2 places to the left gets me 6 and 5 hundredths. Now 605 divided by 10 to the third, we want to get 1,000 times smaller. So with that decimal point, we're going to go 1, 2, 3 swoops in. That's going to get me 605 thousandths. Again, you can see how that decimal point is moving. Let's do another one. Here we already have a decimal point in it, so let's see how that will affect our work. 74 and 3/10 divided by 1. Remember, divided by 1 times 1, always the same. Your number stays the same. So I'm going to have 74 and 3/10. Remember that 1 there is the same as saying 10 to the 0 power. How about 74 and 3/10 divided by 10? If we're dividing by 10, we're getting 10 times smaller. So we're going to move that decimal point 1 to the left because the left means smaller. And we're going to get 7 and 43 hundredths here. I'm going to go back and relook at this work and make sure. If we're dividing by 10, we want to get 10 times smaller. I go from 74 and 3/10 to 7 and 43 hundredths. That lets me know that I am getting smaller because 7 and 43 hundredths is smaller than 74 and 3/10. So that one works. Let's do the next one. 74 and 3/10 divided by 100. That's the same as saying 10 to the second power. So we know we're going to move it 1, 2 times. That gets me 0 and 743 thousandths. You see your decimal point moving the same as we have been seeing it. Let's do another one. This is a pretty easy concept that I think you're really going to jump onto. So I'm not really as concerned about that as making sure that you understand why the decimal point has to move to the left. It's moving to the left because it has to get smaller. If we're multiplying by a power of 10, it's going to get bigger, so it's going to move to the right. Let's do this problem. 156 divided by 1, we know that's going to stay 156. Well, 156 divided by 10 is going to get 10 times smaller, so you put that decimal point in. Move it 1 to the left, 15 and 6/10. You're working these out with me, whether on the paper or in your head, to make sure that you're understanding and following along. 156 divided by 100. Place that decimal, go 1, 2 swoops in, 1 and 56 hundredths. 156 divided by 1,000. We're going to go 3 swoops in because it's just like 1, 2, 3 zeros or 10 to the third. 1, 2, 3 swoops in. 156 thousandths. We've got one more together, and then we're going to do some that are going to be, we're going to do them together, so you're going to work on them, and then we'll do some on your own. We've got 92 and 5/10 divided by 10 to the 0 power. Remember, 10 to the 0 power is the same as just saying 1. So we've got 92 and 5/10 as our answer. 92 and 5/10 divided by 10 to the first power is the same as saying 10. We're going to move it to the left 1 place. Remember, dividing by 10, we're getting smaller. 9 and 25 hundredths. And our last one, 92 and 5/10 divided by 10 to the second. It's the same as saying 100. We're going to swoop it 1, 2 times, 100 times smaller, 925 thousandths. I hope those made sense to you. Remember, you can always go back and review part of the video to see if you need to review any of the things we just talked about.